Right, for this question here, we got a patient who is on 1 liter of CSL to be infused over 8 hours and is running at 42 drops per minute using a standard macro drip giving set and was commenced 3 hours ago. And a volumetric pump is now available and you're required to use it. And the question wants you to calculate the new volume to be infused. So what you could do for this question is we could start breaking it down, and we can say the original volume is equal to 1 liter, which normally we don't use liters, so we just convert this into milliliters, which will be 1,000 milliliters. And the rate here, we know the time here is opposed to original time that we need to run this infusion is 8 hours, and then we got the rate that is being used at the moment. It's in drops per minute, which is 42 drops, and this is per minute, and we are using a macro drip giving set. And when we use a macro drip giving set, this means it's just 20 drops for every single meal. It will give that. This infusion started 3 hours ago. It's been given for 3 hours. And now a volumetric pump is enough, so it's available. So what I've done here, we got the volume here, which is just that. And these 8 hours is what we got there. And we got 42 drops per minute over there. And these 20 drops just means if someone is being given an infusion using a macro drip, that's what it will give, 20 drops per minute. And it was started 3 hours ago. So what we could do at this point is, because the question is asking us to calculate the new volume, we could say the new volume is equal to the original volume minus the infused volume. One thing we are sure of is we know that the original volume here is 1,000 milliliters minus the infused volume. And the infused volume, we have to calculate this because we don't know what the infused volume is in milliliters. Yes, we know the drops that are being delivered here is 42 drops per minute, but we need to calculate that and change it or convert it into milliliters. So we could come and say the infused volume is equal to the 42 drops per minute. Remember, every minute you're giving 42 drops. What about 3 hours? So for 3 hours, what I need to do is to convert the 3 hours into minutes, which will be 3 hours times the 60 minutes in 1 hour. And this should give us 180. So what we'll do is this will give us 180 minutes. And then I end up with 42 drops per minute. Then I'll need to see how many are being delivered in 180 minutes. How much have we given in 180 minutes? So at this point, I'm looking at what we've delivered in 3 hours in that sense, or in 180 minutes. So you just say 42 times 180. And this means we've delivered so far, we've infused 7,560 drops in 180 minutes, or in 3 hours. And these 3 hours, why are they just more of a concern? It's because it was commenced 3 hours ago. If they started 3 hours ago, that means you've infused for those 3 hours. Now, remember again here, now we got the drops, but we are looking for the milliliters. How can we convert this into milliliters? What you need to do, remember here we are working with a macro drip, and the macro drip will give you 20 drops per minute, and this doesn't really change. And again, what we work with is, and this never changes as you work through, is we know that it's been documented that 20 drops, standard ones, are equivalent to 1 milliliter. This is more of what we work with. It's more to do with science. It never changes. If you're giving a standard, if you're using a standard giving set, those 20 drops will give you 1 milliliter. So if that's the case now, we can always come and ask ourselves, the 7,560 drops got how many milliliters? So if for every 20 drops I get 1 milliliter, what about the 60 drops? So you could cross multiply this and that one to find your milliliters, and eventually what you end up is as simple as saying now 7,560 drops, I should say. You divide by 20 drops, and this should give you the milliliter, because you're multiplying by 1 ml here, and this should give you what you need in terms of the milliliters, and this should give you 378 ml. This becomes the infused volume. Then from there, what we'll do now is we can go back to this formula of ours here, and we can say the new volume is equal to the original volume, which is 1000 ml, minus what you've infused, which is 378, and at this point it will give you 622 milliliters as what will be your new volume. That's what's left in the bag. Then if we were to look at part B of this question over here, we could, part B, which is asking you to, part B here wants you to calculate the rate, or calculate the rate in mils per hour. What we could say is, we know the formula again, we just use the formula here, rate in mils per hour is equal to the volume over time. And remember again, as the formula goes, this is milliliters volume and this is time is in hours. So what you need to do, this one needs to be in milliliters and this needs to be in hours. So have I got my volume? The new volume is 622 milliliters. And what about the time? Because we are looking for the new time, because here we're working with the new volume. Also here we need the new time in that sense. Remember at the beginning, this infusion was to run for 8 hours, but it's been going for 3 hours. So we could say our new time here is equal to the original time that it was supposed to run, 8 hours, but we've already infused 3 hours. So what's left? It's 5 hours that we need to infuse. So this becomes our new time that the infusion needs to run when we get the volumetric pump. So now we can come and say rate is equal to volume, which is 622 milliliters divided by 5 hours. And as you tabulate this, if you could work with 622 divided by 5 hours, this should give you 124.4 mils per hour. And this one you can round down, because this is less than a 5. We could just round it down and doesn't have any effect here. It will be like plus a 0 because it's less than 5. It doesn't count. So your rate should be 124 mils per hour. And that should be your final answer.